Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. I am Chicago Bears beat reporter Michael Dwojak here with the Northwest Herald's Joe Aguilar as we join you guys on Friday morning as we preview Week 12 between the Bears and the Steelers. It should be a really fun matchup at Soldier Field on Sunday afternoon. Will Aaron Rodgers play? Won't he play? There are a lot of interesting storylines in this matchup, Joe. But beside that, I mean, it's just a huge game for the Bears. The Bears are at 7-3 right now. I think that the Steelers are a team where you're kind of like, all right, like based on the schedule and what we have coming up here, you got the Eagles, the Steelers, the Lions, and the Packers. I feel, and the 49ers, I think you're kind of like, man, this is a game where we Bears should take advantage quickly here if they want to, improve to 8-3 and really boost their playoff opportunities here.
Yeah, they're all big, right? You're in the playoff race, and it's almost Thanksgiving. So here we go. And who would have thought it's the battle of the North leaders here, right? The Steelers atop the AFC North, the Bears atop, surprisingly, the NFC North here. But yeah, it's all about Aaron Rodgers, right? It's going to be about him even if he didn't injure the wrist last week. So if he can't go, that's another opportunity, right? You've had a couple of these with no Joe Burrow, no Lamar Jackson. Now you're not going to get potentially Aaron Rodgers. I got to believe, though, Michael, they can downplay it all they want, but he even said it this week that he certainly won a lot there. What did he say? He goes, I won a lot there on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays. Which day of the week hasn't he won against the Bears, especially at Soldier Field? So you know this guy. I mean, he's an ego guy. Most quarterbacks and receivers are, but certainly this guy's a high maintenance guy, and he would absolutely 100% love to stick it up the Bears' noses this week one more time in a different uniform this time.
For sure. He definitely would. And it'll definitely be something we're watching out for ahead of this matchup. If you're joining us on YouTube, thanks so much for joining us. Make sure you give us a like, get the comments going in there. I see the chat is bumping already, so good to see that. Great to see the guys in there. If you're joining us on Facebook, make sure you give us a like as well. Really appreciate the support and subscribe. And if you're listening on the podcast, I always like to say, if you want to be part of the conversation, join the live stream on Fridays and Monday mornings, and you can have your thoughts and comments put into the chat as well. We see that Rick and Robert are chiming in here, so great to see the guys and great to see that the chat is bumping. But yeah, Joe, I want to start off with this. Aaron Rodgers, obviously he broke his wrist last week. Debatable about whether he's going to play. He did not practice on Wednesday, worked on some rehab on his wrist. He got back into practice in limited fashion on Thursday. Obviously, we're recording this on Monday or on Friday morning, and we don't know what it's going to look like on Friday. But where are you on this whole? I feel like the sports talk has lived like this is pure sports talk where at its best. Where are you at with this? I want to play Aaron Rodgers and beat him one last time, or you give me the backup quarterback or the third string quarterback? I don't care. I just want the Bears to win. Where are you ahead of this matchup this week?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's on one hand, it's like, hey, get a win. I don't care if they've got to try out the fourth string guy off the practice squad this week, whatever. I mean, but you want to play Joe Burrow. You want to play Lamar Jackson. You want to play Aaron Rodgers. And even though this is not the Aaron Rodgers in his prime, it's still a good football team. It's still coached by Mike Tomlin, and Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. And until he's retired from football, I'm not going to ever bet against this guy playing against the Bears. I mean, I'm going to pick the Bears. We'll get to that later. But it's just he's still effective, even him as at this point in his career, he's still effective. Now, you career-wise, he's the all-time leader with the touchdowns to the interception ratio. I had to look it up. It's better than it's better than 4-1. It always has been. Consistently with him, he's up to 522 career touchdown passes, 123 interceptions. Even this year, it's barely. It's not quite 3-1, but he's still a master at placing the ball and avoiding interceptions, avoiding turnovers. And that, as a Bears fan, you still have visions of that, even a lesser Aaron Rodgers. But I want to see him play. Now, again, you're not playing the 85 Bears defense here. This is the problem. So he's probably looking at this Bears defense like, look, I might not be 100%, but I can beat this defense. I can manipulate this defense, especially with the linebackers. We'll get to that. The banged up Bears linebackers, all of a sudden, they're really depleted. So I got to believe he wants to play. I think he's going to play. And as a Bears fan, I think as a football fan, you want him to play, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just want him to play for the storyline, quite honestly. Like, it's just made it's made things a little bit easier for me to write about. I mean, the Bears it's been Aaron Rodgers this week, obviously, I mean, he's the guy who's owned the Bears. He has an incredible record against the Bears. It's better at home. But I think that also you kind of saw a lot of Bears, Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, Kevin Byard kind of talked about it, where they want to play the best. And quite honestly, like, we can get into the matchups a little bit later here, but I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is that different than Mason Rudolph at this point in his career, just based on what you see him doing. I mean, if you look at the completion rates and what the passes are, he's just kind of spitting the ball out quickly for like short passes. He's not airing it out. Listen, he can still scramble. He's still talented, obviously. He's still, got the intelligence about where to put the ball. But this isn't your vintage Aaron Rodgers, even from a few years ago, who won the MVP with the Packers. So it's one of those things where I'm kind of interested, where it's kind of like, well, how different are things with Aaron Rodgers versus Mason Rudolph? Obviously, there are things that Mason Rudolph can't do that a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers can do. That's just how good Aaron Rodgers has been throughout his career and how good he is now. But I am interested at the situation where, is this a situation where you want the backup quarterback, or is this a situation where you want a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers who isn't what he was at his prime and who's got a broken left wrist? It'll be braced up. Like, they're not going to put him out there if he can do any harm for the rest of his life, obviously. But it's one of those things where I'm kind of like, I don't know. I'm in it for the storyline, but I'm also in it because I think playing against Aaron Rodgers might actually give the Bears a better opportunity to win than I think maybe Mason Rudolph is a little bit better at the opportunities that he'll get, throwing 15, 20 yards and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's tough here because, I mean, again, this Bears defense is so darn depleted right now. I mean, it'd be different if everyone was healthy, they're ready to go. But you still have to win the football game. I think we don't want any more. It's going to be, if the Bears win, they squeak another one out. It's going to be, well, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't play, they didn't have Aaron Rodgers. So you want to beat any team, I maintain, at full strength. I mean, the NFL, it's just not possible. I mean, teams, it's not just the Bears. Every team has a long list of injured players. So, but for the storyline, for certain, whether you're a reporter or you're just a fan, right? This is a great storyline. But I think psychologically, like, especially for Bears fans, you want to see, Dorothy throw the bucket of water on the Wicked Witch. I mean, you have to end this. I don't care if he's 60 years old. You have to end this reign and this "I own you" and all this narrative. Let's put it to bed once and for all.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there would be something poetic to, Caleb Williams grew up rooting for Aaron Rodgers. Now he's the Bears quarterback. He takes down the Packer the former Packer rival. Like, there are so many storylines to this game if Aaron Rodgers plays. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Let's talk about the Bears injury, though, Joe, because there are a lot of concerning injuries here. All three of the starting linebackers did not practice for 2 straight days. Tremaine Edmonds has been out with a groin injury, which we haven't gotten a chance to talk to Ben because we didn't know that the injury occurred until after he talked on Wednesday. So we didn't get a chance to ask him about that. But he's been out with a groin injury. I would assume I've seen some videos. Maybe he's grimacing a little injured during the game on Sunday, but it must have taken place there. TJ Edwards continues to be out with a hand and hamstring injury. So that'll be tough. And Noah Sewell's been out with the elbow injury here, Joe. So I think at this point, like, again, we're recording this on Friday, and I know that Ben has kind of done a thing where he'll talk on Fridays and kind of make my thoughts obsolete pretty quickly a couple hours after. But this feels like a situation where I don't think that TJ Edwards plays, just based on he hasn't practiced in a few weeks. I think it's more of the hamstring at this point than it is the hand. I think they repaired the hand. They've got it in a cast. But I think the hamstring is kind of hitting him on this one. I will see. I think if Tremaine and Noah are limited today, maybe there's an opportunity that they can play on Sunday. They'll wake up and see how they feel on Sunday and play. But Joe, assuming that all three linebackers can't play, you're looking at a linebacking core that is led by your rookie Ruben Hippolyte, who has been inactive a couple times this year. DeMarco Jackson and I forget the name of the guy who they picked up on the practice squad earlier this week, who's more of a special teams guy, and obviously the NFLPA president, which was a fun little bonus. But what do you do if you lose all three linebackers here? Is this an instance where you play Ruben Hippolyte, you get CJ Gardner-Johnson to play that linebacker role, like that kind of, that gimmicky, like not gimmicky, but like the linebacker where you're kind of a mix in between and you kind of rush on the edge? Like, how do you solve this problem if you don't have three of your starting linebackers at this point?
Boy, you're really going to have to mask some things if you're Dennis Allen and try to give different looks, and maybe you play CJ Gardner-Johnson up as kind of a linebacker, or make Ganazi Trapillo play a linebacker, give him something to do since he's done squat all season. Or you know what? Better yet, it's Aaron Rodgers week, so let's get the band back together. Maybe Urlacher and Briggs can come out of retirement for a day. They're probably available Sunday. They'd probably be pretty effective regardless. But no, Michael, I mean, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. Maybe they get some – I don't know. Are they going to get Kyler Gordon back this week? I know the window is open. I see he's been limited in practice. You correct me if I'm wrong. So that would be good, because maybe you can you might have to throw more DBs and this week you're a linebacker. You got to play up on the line a little more. It's a real train wreck, but certainly it's going to be a big challenge for this coaching staff.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Jalen Johnson was a full participant for the first time on Thursday, which is really good news. Kyler Gordon was limited again with a calf. I'm kind of we'll see obviously what Ben says today, but I'm kind of up in the air about what they're going to do with both players, because I think you've seen the Bears use the entire 21-day window when they've worked these guys back, like Austin Booker, Amin Agamemang. Both of those guys used their full 21-day window before they got activated. Now, listen, is it a different situation where it's kind of more on need versus like at that point, both of those guys weren't essentially needed ASAP, right? Like those guys kind of had the luxury of maybe taking some time. But listen, it's a delicate balance, because yes, you need them for this game. You need both guys for this game, but you need them for the rest of the regular season if you're trying to make a playoff push and obviously win a playoff game. And as we've seen with these hamstring injuries and these calf injuries, all these soft tissue injuries, you can tweak them pretty quickly if you rush back pretty quickly, right? So yeah, it's one, and then obviously you have to look at the short week here where the Bears play on Sunday and then they have to play again on Friday. So they're likely not going to practice next week. It'll probably mostly be walkthroughs. Maybe they'll get some practice on Tuesday, I would guess. But those are all the things you have to kind of consider here. So at this point, maybe Ben will say something different. I don't think Kyler Gordon plays in this game. I don't think he's activated based on him being limited twice. Jalen Johnson, I'm kind of the same mindset too, where I don't think he'll play on Sunday. I think he wants to play. But I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see him until that Packers game on December 7th for both guys. I could be completely wrong. Maybe they feel good. Maybe they put him in there. But for me personally, just based on how I've kind of watched the Bears handle this and based on the short week, I don't think you get either guy until December 7th, because you got the short week. You're not going to get practices next week. And I just don't think – I think the Bears are kind of looking in the grand picture of things where they're like, all right, if you drop something against the Eagles, you would want to beat the Steelers, but obviously if you drop that matchup, but you really need to be ready for those Packers games because those are divisional conference games. And I think the Bears value those much more than they would value, playing the Steelers. And then even the Eagles, I know that they're in the same NFC conference, but I think you really have to value those 2 out of 3 Packer games. And I think you want to get Jalen and Kyler back for both of those games.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope here. I mean, and you're right, Michael. I mean, you got to remember here they're 7-3, so 7 games left. Even if, let's say, you lose the next 2 games. Let's say you lose Sunday to the Steelers, you lose at Philly. All right, now you're 7-5, and you're still in the playoff hunt. And you got a big month coming up, December. Yeah, like you said, the Packers twice. By the way, if you guys missed it, that Packers game was flexed. That December 7th game is going to be the 3:25 game at Soldier. The first one's at Soldier Field, right? Then they go to Green Bay later in the month.
No, the first one's in Green Bay.
First one's in Green Bay. All right,
December 7th, and the second one is a Saturday game at Soldier Field.
Okay, so a 3:30 game in Green Bay on the 7th, correct?
3:15.
The 3:15.
Yeah, afternoon. It's an afternoon slot.
Yeah, right. The second game. But yeah, so you want those guys healthy for the long run, and especially like you said, Michael, on the short week, playing Sunday and then turning around on Friday to play against Philly. That's tough. And we already saw what happened with Jalen Johnson when he came back early from his soft tissue. Too many soft tissue injuries on this team. I don't know if it's a league thing. I'm sure it is, but it's certainly going around the Bears, and that's disturbing. But you got to be careful here. And you're at home against Pittsburgh. It's not like if those guys don't play, which doesn't look like they're going to, you still can't win this football game. I did pick the Bears. I think you picked the Bears. A lot of people are still going to pick the Bears. It's at home. It's against an aging, hurt Aaron Rodgers or Mason Rudolph. Either one. That's not, overly intimidating. I know the Rodgers thing. It's half it's mental. It seems like too right now, probably for the Bears. But you're still in a race here. If this was last year, the year before, it's a no-brainer. You're not playing, and games really don't matter. But yeah, you're in a situation where games matter. And December, regardless of what happens the next 2 weeks, even if they win both the next 2 games, December is still a huge month for them.
All right, let's get into these matchups and previews here. Joe, Bears taking on the Steelers on Sunday at noon. One of the last noon games the Bears are going to have now at this point with all the flexes that they've got coming up. What is your key matchup that you're going to be watching for on Sunday afternoon, Joe?
Well, I'm gonna flip it to talk about the other quarterback. We've been talking so much about Aaron Rodgers, but Caleb, you've written about it. A lot of people have written about it and talked about it, how the sacks he's really peeled back on those this year. They've really gone down. He's done a really good job of not necessarily getting rid of the ball quicker. We talk about that every week, but using his spin moves, his athleticism, the ability to avoid pressure, sacks, and now you're going against a Pittsburgh team that has the future Hall of Famer and T.J. Watt. They got the other linebacker, the other Wisconsin kid, Nick Herbig. He's got 6.5 sacks. Watt has 6. They got 2 other guys with 4.5, 5.5. So they come and get you. And Caleb, some of those sacks, like, how the heck did he get out of those? The Houdini plays. This is big because he's got to be better, and he can't take the big sacks. He's been real good at not taking sacks this year and not turning the ball over. Pittsburgh secondary, they're old. I mean, and I don't know how good they are anymore, but that's not that daunting of a secondary. But these guys like Herbig, who's a real good blitzer, and T.J. Watt is T.J. Watt, man. I mean, he's a dude. And those guys concern me. So it's another good test for this offensive line. And I'll be real curious to see if Caleb is better, because he's got to be better than he was last week. Eek, that's 16 for 32. So that's what I'm going to be looking at in particular on Sunday.
Yeah, and I think it kind of worked out well. I feel like Courtney Cronin from ESPN made the good point of, like, it's good to see. Like, I feel like it's a benefit that the Bears are playing the Steelers after playing the Vikings, right? Because obviously Brian Flores last weekend blitzed them 2/3 of the time, constantly blitzing. They used a corner cat blitz, which he didn't use too often, and that sort of stuff. So I think it's a good thing, because the Pittsburgh Steelers, like, they blitz the same amount. They have the third most amount of sacks. They've got a talented group. Highsmith, Herbig, like you said, T.J. Watt. I know he maybe isn't putting up the same performance that he did before he got paid, but he's still a great pass rusher. They've got a good. I think their defensive tackles are pretty good too. They're not as good as they used to be, a little bit older, but they've got a very talented defensive end. But I agree. I think Caleb's got to get the ball out, and he's got to get the ball to his receivers. The Steelers have the highest passing yard average given up, 261.7. They've given up the third most amount of passing yards this season. So you just got to it's really up to Caleb to just get the ball out. It was interesting earlier this week, Joe, where someone asked him about comparing, Aaron Rodgers to Caleb Williams, just where they are. Do you see similarities in that kind of stuff? And Ben Johnson, as he always is, he wasn't trying to be rude or anything, but he was kind of blunt, and he was kind of like, Caleb's not to the level of where Aaron Rodgers is because he holds on to the ball for too long. He doesn't spit it out. Like, the thing that made Aaron Rodgers so special as a quarterback is he got the ball out to his receivers as quick as possible, and it made it very hard to defend. Because you could try to get him, you could have a great pass rush. I mean, you used to see it all the time. Julius Peppers or Khalil Mack or whoever would rush great against him, but Aaron would just get it out quicker than you could get to him. And that's still something that Caleb is struggling with, where it's great that he's scrambling. It's great that he's avoiding sacks, but I still think you're seeing a lot of moments where, man, just read your progression, get the ball out to your third, read, to your second read, and you could avoid the whole scrambling thing and the whole opportunities. And I know it leads to, fun scrambles, and you're kind of like, whoa, Houdini, and like those are valuable things to have in this game. But the next step for him is to just go through his reads, get the ball out quickly, and just be an efficient passer like Aaron Rodgers was, right? Like, they're not the same exact quarterback, but that's going to be huge in their development. So, listen, if you can get the ball out quickly before this pass rush gets to you, the secondary is not great. You can just take advantage of it. You've got the wide receivers, you got playmakers, whether it's Rome, DJ, Luther Burden, hit up your tight ends. The Steelers really give up yardage to tight ends as well. So it's up to Caleb to really take that next step. And I feel like this is a really good opportunity where, what is it supposed to be, like 50 yards? I'm sure it'll be a little bit windy, but not crazy. Like, this is a really good opportunity for him to kind of get back into that passing groove that I don't think we've really seen in the past couple games.
Yeah, for sure. More Loveland. I think he's a huge target, literally and figuratively, for him. And again, I think in the second half last week, against Minnesota, you saw after that disastrous first half, I'm going to call it disastrous, offensively from Caleb. You started doing the checkdowns more. We talked a little bit about it on Monday. Using the checkdowns more. Get Kmet involved. Get Loveland involved. Because even if you throw the ball, it's a 5-yard pass, they're going to pick up another 5 to 7 just because they're going to run over guys and through guys. And that works, right? It doesn't always, but he does have to get better. And you wrote about it this week on the long ball efficiency. And that, I don't think that's going to change in 1 week because it hasn't changed in a year and a half with him. But he's got to get better because that opens everything up too. So you got to connect on some long passes. I don't know what they work on in practice. I don't know how much you can improve on that in a week, in 2 weeks. But that really, I'm glad you brought that up this week in one of your stories, because that's just got to be way better. And when you see even some of the younger quarterbacks like the Drake Mays and the Jaden Daniels, and they're all going through the learning how to play in the NFL stuff too, but they're much better at that. And Caleb's got to be better at that. And until you get better at it, quit forcing it then. If this is not your bag right now, this is not one of your strengths, stop doing it because you're hurting the football team, son. Then go with the shorter passes. And I'm all for using the shorter passing and even getting DeAndre Swift more involved in the running back, because we've seen what he can do, especially this season. I'll get more to him later. He's having a great season, DeAndre Swift.
All right, I'll get to my matchup. I'll kind of keep it short and sweet. Don't give up the run. This is going to be a game where I fear if your linebacker, like, I feel like you've seen the run defense has really struggled without TJ Edwards in there. He's essential to that. He gets to the ball. He does a great job of shedding blocks and getting to it. And without him, without Tremaine Edmonds, without Noah Sewell, I know the Steelers are dealing with their own running back injury issues. Warren is dealing with the ankle injury right now. He's been limited. We'll see what he's like on Friday. And the Steelers don't run the ball well by any means. They're a bottom team when it comes to running the ball. But this is really an opportunity for the Bears to not give that up, because if I'm Arthur Smith, obviously I'm going to try to take advantage of maybe an injured secondary, but I would run the ball against this Bears defense, right? Like they have not shown you, even when they are healthy, that they're great at stopping the run. There were really a lot of opportunities last week when Aaron Jones and Mason for the Vikings just ran the ball well. And I was kind of like, why aren't we kept JJ McCarthy is clearly missing on open passes, just run the ball against his run defense, right? So that'll be a big test for this Bears defense, especially with the linebackers that they have coming out. You got to stop the run defense. You can't let that happen against a running offense for the Steelers that, quite frankly, just hasn't been good this year.
Yeah, the Bears, even at full strength, we didn't know how good they were going to be defensively going into the season, right? And now they're just banged up everywhere. So, how they've been winning this year by not turning the ball over and getting turnovers. They got to keep doing it again. I don't know much. I mean, Kevin Byard has given you everything this year. I mean, I don't know where the more turnovers are going to come from. How many more big plays can you ask of Nahshon Wright? I mean, the guy's already given you more than you anticipated this season, but somehow they're going to have to find a way. And maybe it's some guy that, we don't even know his name, I saw on social media, I think an ad for a Nate. Is it Nate McLeod? Is that the kid's first name?
Nick McLeod.
Nick, thank you. Nick McLeod jersey. I'm like, who's rushing to buy that jersey? But who knows? Maybe he's got to have a game this week. But they somehow they got to get some more turnovers because it's just bad, and keep thinking every week, well, this will be the week the pass rush shows up, and it never does. It never does. But somehow they're going to have to find a way because they haven't stopped the run even when healthy. And now with the depleted linebacker core, it's not pretty. And I hate to say they might have to win it in a shootout, but they might have to win it in a shootout, Michael.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. The conditions will lend itself to a shootout, so it'll be interesting to see what it kind of looks like and whether both quarterbacks, whoever they are, able to take advantage. Joe, what is your surprise prediction for Sunday?
Well, I'm going to get off the offensive lineman catching a pass, which means it probably will happen this week because I think I'm 0 for 2 the last 2 weeks on that prediction. My prediction is I think Luther Burden, I don't know if this is really a surprise prediction. I think Luther Burden, who was really quiet, they tried to focus on him last week, didn't work out. They almost like force fed it, didn't work out. I think we're going to get a big game out of him. I still believe in him. I like the pick. I didn't think wide receiver that early in round 2 was the way to go at all. You did. You called it. Not to go rehash that again, but he's been good. I think they believe in him. I think Caleb has to figure it out, man. Hey, you want to help your numbers? Get the ball to your top 2 draft picks, the tight end and the wide receiver. So I'm going to go back to Burden and say, what? I think I say this a lot in high school. I probably in the pros it happens too. But look, when a guy has a bad game or a bad play, you know what you do? You go right back to him. He drops a pass. He does something wrong. Go right back to him. Go right back to him. Get that kid's confidence back up. So I'm going to go Luther Burden just to have – I'm not going to say he's going to catch 9 passes for 122 and a TD, but I think he's going to make an impact Sunday.
Yeah, I think he can definitely make an impact, especially if they try to get the pass game going as much as you and I have talked about it here. They tried to get it to him yesterday or last week, and it worked to some extent, but obviously it didn't work to how much they wanted it to. But I do think that this really lends itself to an opportunity to kind of pass. I'm sure they'll focus in on Rome. I think they'll focus in on DJ, I'm sure. And you're going to have that opportunity where Luther kind of gets lost in the shuffle, right? I think you're going to get some of that. So I like that pick. I think Luther is going to make a big impact this week, and maybe he'll be my most valuable Bear. We'll see. Stay tuned, folks. My surprise prediction is, and this could be completely obsolete in a couple hours, so I'm sorry, folks, if you're listening to this on Saturday, but my surprise prediction is Aaron Rodgers isn't playing. I don't think he plays.
Not playing, okay.
I don't think he's going to play. I think he wants to play as heck, but I do think, listen, he broke his wrist. I know you can protect that, and I know it's not his throwing arm and all that sort of stuff, but even that's uncomfortable. Just like even he talked about earlier this week about how it'll all depend about whether he can take snaps, right? Because he's talked about the shotgun, he'll be fine, whatever. But it's about whether he can take snaps. So I don't think he'll play this weekend. That's kind of my surprise prediction. It can be proven wrong by the time you listen to this podcast. So sorry about that, folks. But I just don't. I don't think he plays. I feel like there's too much. I don't know. I feel like there's too much out there. Like, obviously, he's got to play. He's got to play this game. And I'm kind of like, I don't know if that's obvious. And quite honestly, like, maybe the Steelers want Mason Rudolph to play. I don't know. I think the Steelers kind of look a little bit better offensively and passing wise. And watch Aaron Rodgers, go off for like 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and does the discount double check and all that sort of stuff. So watch me be wrong on Monday. But that'll be my surprise prediction. I don't think he's going to play on Sunday.
Boy, that'd be, we've been talking about it the entire podcast, but boy, if he doesn't play, that'll be such a air out of the balloon moment, won't it? I mean, we so want to see this. I think the Bears, probably maybe more so the Bears fans than the Bears, because the players, they don't get caught up in the history. They weren't here 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, most of these Bears were not there getting destroyed by Aaron Rodgers. Like, it doesn't really mean much to them.
Some of them weren't even born probably when the first time he played the Bears, for crying out loud. But Bears fans want to see this. They want to see the Bears stick it to this guy. But I don't even know if that's capable, even if he doesn't break the wrist last week, because he's just, man, I have mad respect for the guy. I mean, the whole thing with I own you. Well, he does own you. He has owned the Bears. He's the first ballot guy, and but I want to see him just as a fan play. And I think the Bears, they want to beat. Again, I said at the start of the show, you want to beat the best, and he has been the best they've seen regularly the last 12, 15 years, however many years he's been in the league now at Soldier Field. But yeah, you're probably right, Mike. I mean, you're speaking logically. You normally do. It's probably the smart thing not to play him. But he could say whatever he wants. Mike Tomlin could say whatever he wants. This guy wants to play Sunday and stick it to the Bears one more time.
Rick chiming in with his surprise prediction. He says no false starts on Sunday. They've done a better job of that. And obviously, I think it's still a surprise. They've been a little bit more disciplined. I think Darnell Wright only had the last one last week, but that's still, honestly, based on how things were earlier in this year, that's still a surprise. Robert chiming in from across the pond. Caleb throwing big this week, a couple of successful long passes. I could see that. David chiming in. I think DJ has a big bounce back game. He is due. I think he is due. I think that that guy's been beat to hell at this point. I mean, just every single week he's dealing with a bunch of injuries. He continues to go out there. He continues to fight, and he's not an injury report this week, so maybe he's feeling a little bit better here. All right, Joe, let's go on to our most valuable Bear. Last week, I chose DeAndre Swift. You went with Montez Sweat. Based on the stats, Montez Sweat did get a pressure, but there were no quarterback hits from him or a sack. DeAndre Swift had a mid-game, but that was enough to get me to the win. So I am leading the season now 6-4, and I will have my first pick. For folks at home, make sure you get your most valuable Bears in there. We do it on fantasy points. Defensive players are also in contention here. We have I don't know, this thing I found on Reddit that kind of just helps you out figure out fantasy points for defensive players. But I'm going to burn my second quarterback pick of the year. I'm going with Caleb. This feels like a ripe opportunity for him to take advantage of a bad secondary. If he can get the ball out, like, this is kind of a risky play for me. I feel like a little bit because, listen, if that Steelers pass rush gets it going, things can get pretty ugly pretty quickly here if he has to scramble a lot or if he does throw into some mistakes. But my most valuable Bear is going to be Caleb. You're going against the worst passing defense in the league. It's supposed to be not terrible for late November in Chicago. Oh, yeah. It just makes the most sense for me to go with Caleb in this pick.
Well, I hope you're right. And I think you won last week pretty lopsided. I thought Swift had a good game. He had 90 yards. I know he wasn't getting into the end zone 3 or 4 times, whatever. But I thought he had a good game. And I'm going to go with him actually as my MVP. I think I picked him once before. How about just once? Do we have a number on DeAndre Swift picks? You picked him once, twice too, right? Last week?
I've used them a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. Swift, I looked it up, Michael. He's at 634 rushing yards this season. He's averaging 4.7 a carry. Excellent, right? That's only 16th in the league. There's so many good running backs. I don't think he's a Pro Bowl player this year because, again, you got the McCaffreys and the Gibbs and the Robinsons. But he's really had a good year. And for a position where, again, going back to the beginning of the season, we were really uncertain. To a man, media-wise anyway, everyone was dissing the Bears running game. They don't have a number one back. Why didn't they address it in the offseason, whether it be free agency or the draft? But DeAndre Swift, after a slow start, and since, the bye, I keep bringing it up. The run offense has been outstanding. I think top 3 in most categories in the league.
Yeah, the blocking has been great. The running has been great. It's just a completely different unit from what it was in the first 4 games.
I mean, if you would have told me, at the beginning of the season that Swift and Monangai would be like that, they're going to be really good, I'd be like, no, it's not. It's that combo's not going to work. It has worked. Monangai's been really good. Swift has been excellent. Getting the ball more, even on a little screen pass. I'm going to go with him, especially because I just, doggone it, I don't trust Caleb enough yet. And I want him. I'm like you, it's like me on the first tee. I think I'm going to play well today. And then I shank one left OB. And I'm, taking a mulligan or here we go again. Same old darn thing. So I'm going to go with DeAndre Swift. Hating to pick him, but I think he's been, I was going to say I think he's been their best offensive player, but that old line, you got to start considering some of those guys too. But Swift has been really good this year. I'm going to go with DeAndre Swift as my MVP for this week against the Steelers.
I like that pick, especially because if things kind of start out slow and you want to get the pass rush away from Caleb, you're going to run the ball, right? Like a lot of the times you set up the run, obviously, to set up the passing game. So I like that pick. I think it might be a tight game between us actually this week. I think those stats will be pretty comparable to each other. So it'll be interesting to see how those kind of play out. Rick going with Caleb. He's going with Caleb this week. Robert chiming in. He's going with Swift one more time. Swift has been a consistent. I feel like I've used him a bunch this year, and I've won on him a few times. So he's just dependable, and we've talked about it. That running attack is really good, especially if you run behind Darnell Wright and Jonah Jackson. Those two guys, the right side, have really locked in with each other, and it's been fun to watch. All right, Joe, Bears taking on the Steelers at noon at Soldier Field. Game is on CBS this week. What do you expect to happen on Sunday afternoon?
I picked the Bears this week. Yeah, in our Shaw picks, we had that run during the middle of the week. I'll stick with it. It's funny because it's almost like for the first time in a long while, it's like I just expect the Bears to win every week now. I don't know how because the numbers don't always. You look at the final stats at the end of the game, you're like, they won this game? What? But we know, 7 wins. What, 5 of them have come down to the final minute, right?
Yeah.
The Dallas and the Saints game being the exceptions. So I'm just almost expecting them to win. Being at home influences my decision as well. But I'll pick the Bears. And whether Aaron Rodgers plays, I don't know. We'll deal with that Sunday. Or unless we find out later today or probably would or tomorrow. Anyway, I'll go Bears. I'll go 27-23. I don't know why. Maybe it's the homer in me, but I'll go Bears 27-23.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way. I just quite honestly have not been impressed with what the Steelers have done this year. I think their record is kind of, again, you can make the same argument for the Bears, right? I think that's what the argument has been for a lot of people where the Bears are 7-3. It's like, okay, well, who have they beaten? And that's kind of like how I kind of feel about the Steelers where, they get by the Bengals by, that score is much lopsided because they get a couple of defensive touchdowns late in the game to kind of break that game open. But again, the Bears needed a heroic throw to Colston Loveland to beat them. So who are the Bears to kind of look down at the Steelers, right? But I'm kind of the mindset of the line is at 2.5 right now, and that sounds right to me. I think it's going to be a tight game. This Bears defense is just depleted with injuries at this point. And whether it's Rudolph, whether it's Rodgers, I think that they're going to take advantage of that depleted defense. If this Bears defense has continuously created turnovers, that can only continue for so long. So I think that it's going to be, man, I'll go with like a 24-21 Bears win. That kind of sounds right to me, where the Bears win on a field goal again. I just think the Bears are just too injured defensively for me right now to be confident in them enough to be like, oh, they're going to win by like 7 or 10 points or anything like that. I'm just like, if they're, again, you could say the same thing for the Steelers, right? If they were more healthy, you would feel more confident in them. But at this point, I'm going with the 27-24 Bears win. If you told me that they lost, I wouldn't be shocked. Quite honestly, to me, I'm kind of like a 55-45 Bears at this point, or a 60-40. Like this is just kind of a game where, because of all the injuries, because of the inconsistencies we've seen from both teams, I would not be surprised by either result at this point, just based on who these teams are 12 weeks into the season at this point.
I hope it doesn't come down to another Cairo Santos field goal at the end, for crying out loud. By the way, and you know this, but Jake Moody won't be kicking for the Bears on Sunday. I think the day you said, like, no one's claimed Jake Moody. That was Monday on our podcast, and I think that later that day he got picked up by Washington.
Yeah,
they claimed him. So no more Jake Moody. That's all over. But go Cairo Santos. Hopefully they don't need him to come up clutch again. We don't need another 4 field goals from the kicker to beat an opponent on Sunday.
Yeah, I would agree. And, we'll obviously what the win conditions are like. But
yeah,
this is just a game where you kind of would like to see that killer instinct kick in, right? Like, you just want to see you didn't finish business against the Vikings. I know that you won those games. That I'm not trying to take anything away from that. You just got to find ways to win. But really, for this Bears team to take its next step as an organization, I would really like to see them just they're leading like they did against the Vikings 16-10 early in the fourth quarter. Caleb Williams puts together a long drive that kills clock and adds a touchdown to make it a game that's out of reach. So that's really what I'm looking for in this matchup on Sunday, where can you take advantage? Can you pick up a way to win this game when you have an opportunity to? Don't let it come down to a field goal, like you said. Don't let it come down to a late interception or anything like that. Just put the team away. Like, I think this is a Steelers team where you can do that because, like we said, you're going against the Eagles. You're going against the Packers coming up twice. You got the 49ers and the Lions. I don't think you can play with fire with them the way you have with these bad teams. So I think Sunday's a really good opportunity for this team to learn how to put teams away earlier in games so they can learn so they know how to do it later on when they play the better teams on their schedule.
Yeah, and as happy as we are as Bears fans, or as Bears fans are, like, hey, 7-3, here we go. I mean, this can turn ugly pretty quickly here, like you said. If they lose Sunday, whether it's a 1-point game or they lose by 10 or 20, doesn't matter. And then they go into Philly. This could be an angry week. This could has a potential to be an ugly week here. But we'll see. But because again, we're still looking. I guess that you call the Dallas game would be your signature win so far this season. It's got to be
for sure.
But it could be. I don't want to be talking like all doom and gloom, because you know how it is. We overreact as fans the day after, and if they lose to this Pittsburgh team at home, especially if Aaron Rodgers does not play, and now you're going to Philly. Brace yourself. But, that's why we play the games. And again, even if they lose both, I'm not saying they're going to, even if they lose both, you got a whole month. And if you at the beginning of the year said, hey, Bears, you're going to go into December with a realistic shot at making the playoffs, and it's up to you. Are you ready? You want it? 100%. We know the answer there.
I did see the stat. I don't have it in front of me right now, but the Bears' odds for making the playoffs are much better if they win this game than if they lose this game. And, obviously that feels like a dumb statement to say, but I think ESPN analytics and all these different analytics, like if you get to 8 wins and you've got 6 games to go, that your life is so much easier than it is obviously with 7 wins, right? Because again, we've harped on this so many times. You got the Eagles, you got the Packers twice. I was talking to some folks at Green Bay, and they asked me like, how many of the upcoming Bears games would you say that the Bears are a favorite and are realistically a good opportunity to win? And quite honestly, it's the Browns, right? Because like
One.
I don't at this point with the Lions are a better team, quite honestly. The Eagles are very good. I know that they look gimmicky all the time, but let's be quite honest, they find ways to win no matter how much they fight inside their house. The Packers are the Packers, and the 49ers look great with all those injuries that they've had, right? Like Kyle Shanahan continues to work his magic with all due respect, nobody's on his team, right? Like he just continues to do that every single time. So this is a big game, Joe. Like if you want to make the playoffs, if you're the Bears and you want to make the playoffs, you want to contend for a division title. I know it's an AFC matchup. I know it doesn't have direct implications in your playoff push, but 8 wins looks a lot better 6 games into the season than 7 wins and a tough loss in a short week with the Eagles coming up next week.
Yeah, it's just going to be a grind the rest of the way out, starting Sunday. Even the Browns game, who have the Bears manhandled this year? So, even the Browns game, they still got Myles Garrett, and they can get after you defensively. And it's the old any given Sunday, which does apply because there'll be upsets this week come Sunday. You're like, what? How'd that happen? Happens every week. So, but man, I mean, the Bears, this is far from over. I hate to be the Debbie Downer and, hey man, you are what your record is. Record says it is. Bears are 7-3. That's good. That's a good football team by that definition. But it's going to be a grind the next 7 games here.
All right, folks. Joe, throw in your last questions, thoughts, whatever you want to say. We're going to wrap up here. Bears taking on the Steelers on Sunday afternoon, one of their last noon games. They've got the Browns coming up here. But thank you to everyone who joined us this week on the live stream. Appreciate all the comments. It was great to see all the comments going in there. A lot of good questions and a lot of good comments in there. Robert chiming in with the quick question, keys to win tomorrow. Like we talked about, Robert, I think the matchups are the big thing. I just think you got to get the quarterback going, and you just got to limit the damage as much as you can. It's as simple as that for me. Your quarterback has to be the reason why you win on Sunday.
Yeah, don't turn it over. Don't get sacked for like 12-yard losses and taking you out of field goal range and all that kind of stuff, because this team will get after you.
All right, Joe. Rick is chiming in here. He wants to know what it will take for you to believe in Caleb. We don't have 10 or 15 minutes for you to do your whole synopsis, but I don't think you don't believe in Caleb. I think you're just being realistic with the fact of Caleb is great in clutch performances, right? Like no one is taking that away from him, but like the first 3 quarters, like if you play at a better level in the first 3 quarters, you don't have to be Mr. Clutch. I feel like that's kind of how you view it, like the same way I do.
Yeah, and get that completion percentage, because that does matter. That does matter. Get that up higher. It's got to be. What did Ben Johnson want at the beginning of the year? Was it 60% or higher? Was it? Do you remember?
70.
70. He's nowhere close to that. So I think he's like at 60 for the year about. I don't have it in front of me. It's got to be close to that. And part of that will come when he starts recognizing and trusting his receivers more. Now, again, I'm always, because I'm like a lot of fans. Like I'm like, you overanalyze week to week to week. But it's just, so I want to be patient with him. I'm not ready to give up on him and bring in Tyson Bagent and get Case Keenum some snaps or whatever. But so I'm trying to be patient because it does take quarterbacks. We see the Drake Mays and Jaden Daniels. They go, and the CJ Stroud's year one. Say, why can't that be Caleb? It just takes time for guys. Takes longer. So I want to be patient with Caleb, but until he starts getting that completion center, and there's reasons for that why it's low, he's got to improve on that. So look at that number, and then the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Like I did a Bear Down Nerd Up this week, kind of looking at Caleb's stats, and I feel like I kept getting a lot of like comments back being like, I don't care, they're 7-3, but like, listen, like this is the number 1 overall pick. You want this to be your Josh Allen, your Patrick Mahomes, your Lamar Jackson, right? Like you want this franchise. You don't want to just survive with your franchise quarterback who you took number one. Like, you want him to be the reason why you win games, right? So how does he do that? He gets his completion rate up. He makes plays beyond just scrambling like a madman. Those are fun plays, but those are not sustainable. And quite honestly, like,
Right.
knock on wood, like, it's amazing that he hasn't gotten injured up to this point the way he scrambles, right? Like, you've seen Jaden Daniels. He's been, hampered by injuries this week and I know they don't scramble the same way as they used to, as, Jaden Daniels does. But, like, and I don't want to, again, I'm not trying to jinx him, but, like, Caleb has been healthy despite scrambling a bunch, right? So you got to figure out a way to stay in the pocket and get those passes out, because scrambling and doing all that kind of stuff is not a sustainable way to be an NFL quarterback. So
no, you see too many guys in the concussions. We saw it with Jackson Dart. We've seen it certainly with Tua, other guys. That's what you worry about. And you're right, Michael. And knock on wood. I mean, the guy started He started every game last season, right, Caleb? He started again this year. So kudos to him. But you're flirting there with disaster. And I don't want to see. No one wants to see that. Whether you like Caleb Williams or you believe in him or you don't believe in him, no one wants to see the guy get hurt, especially a head injury or who knows what. So you're right. It's just not sustainable. But I'm a Bears fan. I root for the kid, and I want to see it. But you'll know it when you see it. But that said, the fourth quarter clutch gene, whatever he's got, that matters 100%. I'm not taking anything that matters, because this whole evolution of being a good quarterback to being a great quarterback, you better check that box, and he's already checked it. So that's fantastic.
David chiming in saying once he believes in the gimme passes and works out his accuracy, he'll be a top 10. He was accurate in college. Yes. I'm not worried. And yeah, I think that's essentially what Joe and I are saying. Like, I don't doubt that he can do it. He's just got to develop. And obviously that's what this whole season has been. He's been learning a new offense. I think there have been times his wide receivers obviously haven't done him any favors with some drops, but it's a whole thing, right? Like, it's a whole thing of making sure you're cohesive. That's what we're kind of wanting to see from Caleb here. David having one more comment here before we say goodbye. Can we just have a win where we don't have a borderline heart attack? Now, sure, this is a week with our defensive injuries. Last week, I thought that the heart attack zone was over, David, and the Bears somehow decided to make this a heart attack game. So I'm just going into this weekend thinking that it's going to be a heart attack game, because that's what the season. I'm not confident in anything happening this week. I'm just expecting the last 2 minutes or last 5 minutes to be insane, because that's just what the Bears have been this year. So get settled before the game, relax a little bit, because your heart rate is probably going to go up in the fourth quarter, Bears fans. That's the one thing that I can guarantee you at this point. All right, that's everything that we got for this episode of the podcast. Thank you to everyone for joining us this morning. It's been great to hear from you guys. Great to get your comments. If you're on YouTube, give us a like. That's the best way to support us, and to kind of get all of our other podcasts and get notified when we'll be going live. If you're joining us on Facebook, thanks so much for joining us as always as well. Give us a like and subscribe there. And on the podcast, make sure you subscribe there as well. If you want to be part of the live stream, make sure you're joining us on Friday and Monday mornings. Next week is going to be a little bit gimmicky for us guys. So make sure you check out our social medias. I'm at Dwojak94. Joe's at Joe Aguilar 64. With the shortened week, we're going to see what the Bears practice schedule looks like. I'm hoping we can record on Monday morning like we usually do, and then we're hoping to do a Wednesday show as well. But make sure you guys check out our social medias, and obviously at Bears Insider, and we'll give you guys the latest show times for when we'll be going live. And if you can't join us live, obviously the podcast will be around, so you can listen to the podcast whenever you're free. Check out Joe this weekend at Joe Aguilar 64. He's got semifinal high school football this weekend. And I, as always, will have the latest updates for you on Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon this afternoon up at Halas Hall. And I will also give you the latest updates on Aaron Rodgers. And I'll be at Soldier Field on Sunday. So follow me at Dwojak94. So for Joe and I, thanks so much for joining us on this Friday morning. Have a good weekend, guys. It's supposed to be very mild this weekend. So get some time outdoors. Enjoy the game on Sunday. And we will talk to you folks on Monday morning.